Today, I am thrilled to have with us Melissa Segisman, homeschool director and teacher at Montessori Peaks Academy, a tuition-free homeschool enrichment program run through the Jefferson County Public School District in Colorado. Melissa has a bachelor's degree in elementary education and a Montessori certificate, and she has been serving the Montessori Peaks homeschool community since 2014. Montessori Peaks Academy is a unique public program that caters to homeschool children ages 5 to 13 who attend 1 or 2 days a week. It blends Montessori principles, project-based learning, and ample time in nature, fostering a holistic and well-rounded educational experience. Melissa Segisman, welcome to the Liberated Podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. We were chatting before I clicked record and saying that I don't know of other programs like this, particularly kind of Montessori, public, private, or, kind of public homeschool partnerships anywhere across the country. If I'm wrong, I hope my listeners and viewers will let me know. But this seems to be a really fascinating program. Of course, you've been involved with it now for about a decade. So I want to get into how this program took shape and what it entails. But before we do, I'd love to hear your journey because you began your pathway into alternative education as a teenager, attending an alternative high school through your public school district. So maybe share with us a little bit about your educational experience and then sort of beyond that, beyond high school, what happened next for you?
All right. Thank you. Happy to. I attended a school in Glenwood Springs, Colorado for my junior and senior years of high school called Yampa Mountain High School. And it was the only, as far as I know, the only alternative school up in that area. But it was very alternative. We were required to write our own curriculum. We were required to get, the correct amount of credits per subject because it was a public school. However, we were allowed to, we wrote our own curriculum. They called them passages, and we had to write a paper on how we were going to spend 40 hours of time. So there was a boy that went to the school who was a professional snowboarder. So he did all of his PE credits. I'm gonna go snowboarding for 40 hours. And so I was actually there because I was a teen mom. My oldest son was born when I was 16. And so a lot of my focus, a lot of my passages were around child development and real world skills. The one thing that we were all required to do, period, end of story, was to write a 10-page argumentative essay that was all, cited correctly and whatnot. We had to do that to graduate. But other than that, the rules were very, very liberal. So
Yeah, and that piqued your interest in alternative types of education, but it really wasn't until your own child was sort of hitting school age and you started to sort of see what was available that you approached alternative education as a parent. I wonder if you can share a little bit about that.
yeah. So when my oldest was in second grade, it was already becoming obvious that he was not thriving in the traditional public school, and his teacher was already recommending that we look into ADHD medication and go down that road. So and I have 3 kids. They're all about 6 years apart. So my daughter was just a toddler at the time. So we started looking around at what would be available other than a traditional public school. And we were lucky enough to live in a district that had a number of charter schools, including some Montessori public charter schools. And charter schools are schools that are free to the public. They're public schools run by the district, but they have to apply for a charter that then states what kind of educational philosophy they're going to use to run their program. And so in that, they also get a lot of waivers from the district on some of the things that that traditional schools are required to do. So we found a Montessori charter school, and I called, and they said, we have a wait list, but there's a new one starting. There's a new one opening. You could get in with them. So we got involved with that school before it even opened its doors, and that was called Free Horizon Montessori, and we were founding parents there. My oldest started there his 3rd grade year, and it went from, in his 2nd grade year, almost every day. I don't like school. I'm bored. I know all that stuff already. I don't want to go. I think he said that maybe 2 or 3 times the next year when we started at the Montessori school.
And I want to hear more about this, Melissa, but I'm just curious, were you familiar with Montessori? Did you have a sense that that was going to fit his learning style more? I guess I'm just curious what thought process you went through when you realized the traditional school wasn't working.
When I had been back in high school at the alternative school, my guide was from England, and Montessori schools are much more prevalent over there. She was the first one to mention Montessori to me and explain what it was. And at the time, I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. But there were, as far as I knew, there were only private schools available. And as a teen mom, that was not something that was really accessible to me. So that's probably really why I ended up going down that road. Primarily is because that's what I knew about at the time.
So then all of your kids went to a Montessori charter? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And so then what happened to get you involved in the local homeschooling community, and particularly into this unique public homeschool enrichment program?
Yeah. I after my kids had been in Montessori school for a while, I went and got my Montessori training back in 2010. And I taught in the preschool program, a private preschool program, for 3 or 4 years after that, until my first grandson was born. And so at that point, I decided to take the next year off to help out my son and daughter-in-law. And so while I was doing that, the homeschool director expanded the homeschool program at Montessori Peaks Academy, which is where I teach now. And she expanded it a couple more days a week, because it had originally just been 1 day a week on Fridays. And so as she expanded it, she also was a friend of mine. She asked me if I'd like to come and work 1 day a week on one of the new days, which sounded perfect. Just 1 day a week, that was great. So slowly over time, it became 3 days a week. But then she left in her last year was 2020, 2021. And so I took over as director in 2021.
So can you share with us a little bit about the origin story of this really unique program, this homeschool Montessori Peaks Academy, Montessori Peaks Enrichment Program for homeschoolers? What is it? What is it like? Why did it get started? What was sort of that origin tale?
I think the original reason, and honestly, I'm not entirely sure of the year that it started. I know that the school itself, Montessori Peaks Academy, is the oldest Montessori charter school in the district, 27 years old, I think. So, and I know that the homeschool program's been going at least 15 years. So it was originally started, I think, when the school hit a rough patch and needed some extra funding. So it was born out of, a financial need. However, the original program was 1 day a week. Children 1st through 6th grade would come on Fridays, and they would get to have some, group social time. And experience what we call a work cycle in Montessori, which is a free choice period where children can pick whatever they want in the room and use it. And then they also got to do art, music, and PE. So that's what parents, were really, I think, looking for at that point was mostly the specials. And then several years later, when Jana took over, she expanded the program to several other days of the week to do more project stuff and more focused on a bigger topic type work.
So these are registered homeschoolers. They're
Mhm.
recognized as homeschoolers, but they're attending this program
Mhm.
tuition free
Mhm.
several days a week. Do most families come more than one day? Are they required to come more than one day? How does that work?
They are not required to come more than one
Mm,
day. In fact, there are several charter schools in the area that have a homeschool program attached to them that follow their particular philosophies. Ours is the only one who offers 2 days a week for the elementary age. Some of the other ones offer for high school, but we're the only ones who offer it for elementary, and parents are allowed to choose 1 day or 2 days a week. Right now, we're pretty small. We have 28 students, and I would say 2/3 of them come 2 days a week, um, but we have, about 10 that only come 1 day a week.
And why are the families attracted to this program? Were they kind of always homeschoolers? Are they newer homeschoolers? Tell us a little bit about who your population is and why they're coming.
We have some that have been homeschooling from the beginning that always intended to do that. And over the last few years since COVID, we have the population is certainly shifting. We are getting more and more families who started homeschooling during the pandemic or
Mm.
shortly thereafter, uh, and found that they really enjoyed it and wanted to keep doing it, but that they were also ready to, have a little bit um, of I guess a school experience. And our school is very unconventional. So, uh, so they they're coming largely because they want some social experience, as well as uh, they wanted. I'm sure some parents are, they want to be able to go to the grocery store, but um, but they're coming because they're not wanting something that looks rigid,
Mm.
and so we don't have a curriculum that we require parents to follow at home. In
Mm.
fact, as a purely enrichment program, since we don't give grades, we don't have a curriculum we're required to follow. So we are
Mm.
really able to dive into subjects that kids generally love. We've done dinosaurs. We just did geology. The older kids just did 3D modeling. So we're able to dive into topics and take it in the direction that the kids are interested in, as well as give them plenty of time uh, to have, time to explore the classroom on their own terms. And I also think a lot of parents come because of the fact that we spend so much time outside. We have a lot of
Mm.
natural space around our school. And so I think a lot of parents are really attracted to that piece
Mm.
as well.
And is it housed in a public school building, or what is your location like, aside from
We
this
are
beautiful outdoor space?
Yes, the school itself is located kind of right on the edge of the mountains, in the shadow of the foothills. So
Mm.
it's a lovely area. And we are located on the school campus.
Mm.
We're actually moving into a new space any day. We are currently in a temp building, and the school purchased the property across the driveway a couple years ago, and renovations have just completed. So we'll be moving into more permanent brick and mortar space here shortly. So we're pretty excited about that. But it's still on the campus and on the
Mm.
property. There's lots
Yeah.
of Yeah, there's lots of natural space that actually is part of the property, but then it also backs up to a green belt and some parks and recs areas. So we have lots of area to explore outside.
And are the homeschoolers and their families involved in any other parts of the public school there? Like, are they using the library or any of the other classes at the public school, or how is that relationship?
We do go to the library. All the days of the week we
Hmm.
take the kids to the library. So that's a big part of our day as well. Like I said, the Friday kids still go into the with the teachers, the art, music, and PE teachers. They go spend time with them every week, and we go on field trips with the main building
Hmm.
and pretty much every chance we get because buses are
Oh.
expensive. So we've gone to the nature center. We've gone to let's see, last Friday we were supposed to go to Evergreen Lake, which is up in the mountains, and go ice skating. However, we got a cold snap here. It was way too cold, so that's supposed to be moved to this week. So
Hmm.
we're going ice skating. We've
Nice.
gone to the symphony, so there's lots of opportunities to do those things as well. And then parents, it's entirely optional, but if they are interested in using some of the testing for their reporting to the district on the years that's required.
Hmm.
It's available to them free of charge through the school if they want it. Sometimes people take it up, but a lot of times people don't. Um, and so and all of like the after school programs, like the Taekwondo or the chess club or any of
Hmm.
those things, those are also all available to the families as well.
And they don't pay anything.
Well, for the after school programs, you do because those
Okay,
are run by, people who just come in.
I
But
see.
yeah, and then field trips, there's usually a small fee, like $5. But
But not for the enrichment program itself, the daytime
right,
program.
yeah.
Just amazing. Are there any requirements then for these homeschoolers who are participating in this public program? Do they have to meet certain requirements? You said testing is optional, but what are some of their obligations, or if any?
We as a program are required to offer 90 hours per semester. So that works out to about at least 15 days of contact with the families. We do encourage and somewhat beg that families come consistently through the first part of October because that's when the district counts us up and gives us our
Mm.
funding. But I personally believe that traveling is one of the greatest, advantages to homeschooling, and far be it for me to, make that difficult for families. So we don't have an attendance requirement after the October. Most kids come just about every week anyway. They love it.
Mm.
So there's, but if a family says, hey, we're going to be gone for 4 weeks because we're going to Germany, then that's great. Bring us back some pictures. So
Thing.
mhm,
It's just really fascinating, Melissa, because I hear sometimes from independent homeschoolers about their concerns with whether it's school choice policies that might apply to homeschoolers, or in this case, a public school program that's open to homeschoolers. They worry about there being strings attached or
mhm.
regulations around homeschooling. And yet, what you're describing sounds very open and free that would likely be attractive to many independent homeschoolers. Am I missing something here?
No, you're not. And a lot of homeschool, there is definitely a perception that public programs are dubious. Um,
Mm.
and it's one thing I get a lot is, do I have to vaccinate? And actually, no, you don't. The school district, you do have to enroll through the district, and so you have to provide, proof of residency, and if you have immunization records, you're required to give those. However, you can still sign an exemption and skip that part. Um, I would say that the district as a whole is maybe not super open to homeschooling, but they're getting there.
Really? Maybe
Much,
because of your program, do you think? Or
because of the numerous programs I think that are
okay.
out there. But the people that I know in these programs, running other programs in mine, we are all passionate about homeschooling and parent choice, and we are not standing around looking over your shoulder trying to trip you up and catch you. By and large, the parents that are homeschooling are doing a fantastic job, and the kids are happy and thriving. So yes, there are a few requirements, but they are pretty general.
Okay. Yeah, and I saw on the website
Mhm.
that you don't have to necessarily be in the district
You
to
don't?
attend. Okay, so you do have to sort of show proof of residency as registering for the program, but you don't, it
Mhm.
doesn't require you to be in that
No,
town. So that's
no.
great. So you're
Mhm.
attracting people from a wider geographic area.
Yes, yeah.
I'm curious how you became interested in homeschooling and parental choice in education, where your kids had gone to a charter school. What was that like for you? How did you discover this world of homeschooling and become such an advocate?
In all honesty, as far as when I was a kid, I was in 4-H, and there was one family in my sort of pod that was homeschooling, and that was my first, that homeschooling was a thing at all.
Mm.
And that was my only exposure to homeschool up until I took this job, really. Um, and and like many who have not been exposed to that world, I had some preconceived notions that were blown out of the water right away. I the I had this idea that homeschoolers, by and large, were very conservative and uh, uh, very Christian, and so, and certainly that is a big and wonderful part of the community. But I found that there were people who homeschooled because they love to travel, and because they were actually the opposite. They were very liberal, or because their children had suffered trauma in a public school or in a school setting, and they were working with that. So there was many reasons to homeschool as there were families doing it. The community was much more diverse than I expected, which I thought was wonderful. And we have students from all of those areas attending our program. Um, and as far as especially students that have suffered trauma in a school setting, uh, they tend to do very, very well in our program. One of our big focuses is social emotional learning and support. Uh, and so there's this atmosphere of, hey, we're here for you. And, this is a safe place, and you're okay. And, and take the time you need to, to acclimate and branch out. So, and our classes are very small, which also I think helps in that regard. But
Hmm. It just seems like this can and should be a model for so many other district schools and charter schools to consider. Obviously, virtual charter schools for a long time have had some hybrid programs in various states.
mhm,
I've not heard of too many of these Montessori homeschool enrichment programs, especially the way yours operates, where it is on the campus of the public
mhm.
school and really integrated within that. Do you see this as a potential, future pathway for public education? I guess, where do you see American education going, and how do you think that your program fits into that?
Well, I think, honestly, I don't really know,
Yeah.
especially having never taught in a traditional setting. However, uh, even within the charter school community, the full-time students definitely have testing requirements, and they have, curriculum
The charter
requirements.
school, the
Yeah,
full-time
yeah,
charter schools. Yep.
the full-time charter schools do. And so, I first off, I just think that, parents need more choices, kids need more choices. And I was really hopeful, honestly, that COVID would force the education system to make some of the changes that are so desperately needed. And I think it did force a little bit of that, but it's too slow and it's
Mm,
taking, and it's too little. There's, so many teachers that want to go back to what was happening before because that's what they know. And so change has been very slow. But I think that it's kind of, vote with your feet when parents uh, make alternative choices. And the more parents that make alternative choices in educating their children, the more districts will have to embrace that or they lose money. So,
right.
when you hit a grocery store or a school district in the wallet, they take notice. So,
Yeah. And so I guess I'm wondering, Melissa, if you have advice for anyone who's listening who might be working within a traditional district school or a public charter school that is intrigued by what the Montessori Peaks Homeschool Enrichment Program looks like and wants to do something similar to that in their community, catering to homeschoolers. Any suggestions, advice, thoughts for how these intrapreneurs can innovate and recommend a homeschool program like yours in their own communities?
yeah, I'm still honestly, this is my third year as director, and I'm still learning about the legal side of all of this. But I would say if teachers listening are intrigued and they work already in a charter school, uh, that the way ours was started was it was added to the charter. So
Mm,
when they come up for charter renewal, they can write it in to the charter, setting up an independent homeschool program within their structure. Um, and as far as other teachers that are fascinated by this idea, the idea of micro schools are another way to do that. However, those tend to be private and cost money. But um, but also families that enroll in our program are also welcome to enroll in private programs if they want. They just can't enroll into more than one public program at a time. So
mm.
but they're still welcome to join umbrella schools and other private offerings as well. So um, I would say if anyone is in the area and they're curious, we'd love to give them a tour and answer questions. But I think the way to do it through the district is to get in on a charter um, from a charter school.
Mm.
That's what I've seen here, at least. So.
Yeah, and there's a financial case to be made as well, right? Because the school is getting that per pupil funding from those
Mhm,
homeschoolers. So
mhm.
particularly in areas where we see schools closing or enrollment declines across the country
Yep.
in public schools, this could be a way of innovating again within the
Yes.
system and attracting families. I mean, really,
Mhm,
it's that public schools now have to compete
mhm,
and show that they have a competitive advantage
mhm.
compared to these other options that are emerging. And certainly, that's what you've been able to do and really differentiate yourself. So a nice invitation that you offered to folks to see up close what you're doing. If my listeners and viewers, Melissa, want to learn more about your program, what is the best way for them to contact you?
I would say through email or through our website,
Mm.
which I can give you well, you have the email address, but or the website address as well. But my email is msegesma at Jeffco Schools, all one squished together, .us. So So that's a good way to do it. And then we can add the website to the
Yes.
description. Yes.
Yes. And I think if listeners and viewers also Google Montessori Peaks Academy in Colorado, it pops up, and I'll certainly give the link to the URL in the show notes. But I'm just so glad to hear that about this innovation within the system and this opportunity for homeschoolers to retain their independence and autonomy and have much more of a collaboration with the local public schools, and just so thrilled at what you are creating and helping to steward, hopefully, for more districts and charters to follow. So, Melissa Segisman, thank you so much for being on the Liberated podcast.
Thank you.